Much to everybody for
This meeting is being recorded.
Coming today. We've got I'm the new Screen Sustainability Manager for Scotland, and this is the first themed event that on the topic of food waste in our sector. We're holding the event following feedback and requests from crew that they would like to find out more about how productions can reduce their food waste. So on the call, we've got registered to join us producers, production coordinators, production managers, a production executive, locations coordinators, a locations marshal, a screenwriter, studio managers, sustainability managers, sustainability coordinators, film location officers, and a film festival assistant. So a lot of different perspectives on how food is sourced and disposed of across the screen sector in Scotland. We're also recording the session, as you probably saw already. So that's because we've been asked to share the event for a few people that couldn't make it, including a few catering companies. So I'd like to introduce you all to our wonderful contributors. We've got Jerry Boyle with us, who is a hospitality and food service partner at Zero Waste Scotland. Jerry has previously worked in the hospitality sector for the last 15 years, and at Zero Waste Scotland, he helps to communicate the effects of food waste on the environment and offers support to companies to reduce their food waste and help them to realise both the financial and environmental benefits of doing so. Rory Gallagher is the Business Development Manager Olio, which is an app-based platform that connects neighbours with each other and with local businesses so that surplus food can be shared and not thrown away. And Jack Smart is a waste management consultant at Vegware, a company who makes compostable catering disposables from plant-based materials. The Edinburgh-based company also runs its own waste collections with an in-house team of waste management consultants to help caterers compost used vegware together with food waste. So to set the scene for us today, we're going to start with Jerry, who's going to give us an update on the work of Zero Waste Scotland in relation to food waste across the country. So over to you, Jerry.
Thank you. Let's get the screen shared. Bear with me a second. Can everybody see that okay?
Yeah.
Great. Thanks for the opportunity to speak today. It's great to be here, and the location element of the food service within the Scottish screen is an intriguing part of food service that is often missed. So hopefully I can impart some wisdom on you today, and hopefully some things you can take from it. As Mairi Claire said, I'm a hospitality and food service partner here at Zero Waste Scotland. And prior to joining, I have worked in hospitality, been owner, operator, pot washer, in a portfolio of businesses, including fine dining restaurants, bars, even the cafes at the local swimming pools. But events venues have always been very difficult. And I think that's where the kind of events venues and the location element, we can take some learnings from each of those things. So I can understand the operational challenges that are faced on a daily basis by your business and other hospitality businesses. So now I'm entirely dedicated to supporting hospitality businesses, helping all to tackle climate change by preventing food waste and at the same time cutting the cost to your business. So food waste, what's the problem? Well, we have to look at the bigger picture. A third of the world's food is wasted. Now, to put that in perspective, everybody demonizes the airplanes, and rightly we should. But global emissions from food waste are 3 times that of aviation travel. If food waste and loss were a country, it would be the 3rd largest greenhouse gas emitter. When food is wasted, so too is the energy that was associated and the carbon emissions associated that went into growing, harvesting, transporting, processing, preparing it, chilling it, serving it. It's a lot more than just the energy wasted from the product itself. As we can see, an estimated 1.3 billion tons of the world's food is wasted every year at a ridiculous cost of $1 trillion. Now, in times with a rising cost of living, energy crisis, food poverty, can we as businesses, individuals, as a nation, afford to waste this food? So how do we manage waste? I'd like to introduce you to the food waste hierarchy. Great diagram. But in here, we have the tiers that can have best ways to manage, obviously going from best option to worst option. So in all our messaging, we try to raise awareness of the top tiers, i.e. prevention and redistribution. Prevention of food waste not only saves the food going to landfill, it saves what I mentioned before, that energy, time, money, the raw materials, and the CO2 that was incurred in the production of that particular commodity of food. Redistribution, again, it stops all of the above being wasted, and also it stops the further emissions that are incurred through disposal because it is being consumed. Now we have two recycling options, and people are always surprised that recycling is further down the waste hierarchy. Thinking it should be higher up, but there is still energy involved. There is a loss of energy in some of these things. So there are two recycling options. The first is for food waste to be sent to anaerobic digestion facility where it can be converted into renewable energy and fertilizer. The second is composting. It can be, converted into compost for enriching the soil. If we move further down, we've got recovery. So the fifth tier. Recovery involves the incineration of food waste, which is a big no-no. But usually when the food waste is disposed, usually this is what happens when food waste is disposed of general waste. But we can create some of that energy through we can create some energy through the incineration, but it's not entirely renewable and can contribute to air pollution, obviously. Final, the worst option is incineration without capturing any of the energy. So let's focus on prevention and promote the behaviours so people can adopt change, reduce waste, as well as changing the way the waste is managed. Now in Scotland, the government has a target of reducing food waste by 33% by the year 2025. And that was a very ambitious target at the start, and we're well on our way. But with the pandemic, we have lost a couple of years there where we were trying to reduce our food waste. Although, if there's any good that can come from a pandemic, people were thinking a lot more and valuing food as they were preparing it in their homes. Food waste, food itself was being appreciated more. You saw people making their own banana bread. I saw that on many social media channels. So people were beginning to value the food and wasting less and getting more for their money. So how can we achieve 33% by 2025? Well, the SDG goals outlined by the UN are looking for 50% by 2030. So any mathematicians out there say if we get 33 by 2025, we're well on our way to meeting the UN goal of 50% by 2030. But that's all numbers. Let's just look at the practical. How can we actually do that? So we produced the Food Waste Reduction Action Plan in 2019. The aims of this action plan is to reduce the unnecessary demand for avoidable waste, support businesses, which is my role, to be out there one-on-one supporting businesses, creating some tools to help businesses monitor and through innovation and collaboration reduce their waste and deliver that new approach to food waste, change behaviours, get people to again value the commodity which is food. So let's look at the hospitality and food service. Obviously, catering for the screens, food service would be that category you come into. So it is all lumped into one sector. So some headline facts for you with regards to this. Food waste currently costs the Scottish hospitality businesses £215 million per annum. So this is a bit more focused just on the hospitality. So you can, rather than those macro figures of trillions of dollars, you can see here what it is in Scotland and what it is for hospitality. Just one wheelie bin every week costs £12,500 per annum. every dish prepared creates about a pound's worth of food waste. And last but by no means least, the one that hits home with many chefs I speak to is that 1 in 6 meals that you've served ends up going to waste. Now just think about that stat just for one, because that one I think is more tangible than anything else, the global air travel, everything. 1 in 6, if you are preparing 600 meals on site, if 100 of those need not be prepared, you would notice the difference in your service, you know, the difference in your costs, your profitability, and the management of that waste at the end of the day. That's when I speak to chefs, and that's when they start taking note that 1 in every 6 of their meals is going to waste. So how is Zero Waste Scotland going about, you know, combating this? Well, we try to raise awareness, like today, on webinars and roundtables, talking to, you know, like-minded individuals like yourself in the industry, reaching out to chefs. Teaching and training, we've worked with one of the culinary arts colleges, and we've got a food waste module, so training future chefs to have that explicit module on food waste reduction, rather than it just being inferred to in previous ones for profitability reasons. But this is more of sustainability and environmental. We have communication campaigns leading up to COP26. We had a campaign that showed you know, the food waste, and it's in relation to its more demonized plastic waste. And just showing you the effects of those. That was a very successful campaign. Also Plate Up for Glasgow, again, prior to COP, was a campaign that got restaurants and food service businesses in Glasgow to create a special or a dish or a cocktail that was made from what would have been surplus or waste, and promote that to raise awareness amongst the consumer. We also do training for businesses, individuals, so they can take some of that training home with them, show them how to reduce waste at home, and in turn bring that into the workplace. Now, how can you help? By measurement. If you can't measure your waste, if you don't measure your waste, you can't manage it. You don't know how much you're wasting. So we developed some online resources. There's the ultimate guide to measuring and monitoring in hospitality. Loads of guidance on our web pages, and I'll include the link in a follow-up email. There's also a 4-week food waste challenge, which Mairi will also send you a link to. And that 4 weeks is a step-by-step to show you how to outline the problems, show you how to measure your waste, and then some interventions so you can take some low-hanging fruit. Also been some challenges that we've done. The Hospitality Zero pilot project just finished, and that was in venues in Glasgow. And every venue that was involved in that pilot project, 100% of the businesses that were involved were surprised at the results, how much they could save and how much they were wasting. We did a project with green tourism, and in that particular project, 90% of the businesses that were involved in that project, 90% of them realised a 30% reduction just by measuring. No interventions, no picking off the low-hanging fruit, just by interventions, just by measurement. So we can see that if you start to measure, you'll actually become more aware of what's going in the bin and what could be reused, and what is avoidable and what is unavoidable. So get involved. Get involved in some of our pilots. We can support you with some of the interventions. As I say, I'll send links afterwards so you can see what is coming up. And again, get involved in the Food Waste Challenge. My email address is there, and it's also at the end. And I'm here to support you, whatever you do. So let's talk about what's happened and what's coming up with regards to legislations and publications. So quick rewind in time to 2012, seems like only yesterday, but it was actually 10 years ago. The Waste Scotland regulations, all food businesses generating more than 50 kilograms in non-rural areas are required to recycle their food waste. Now, the progression for that was 2016. The Waste Scotland regulations stated that Scottish businesses producing more than 5 kilograms of waste per week are required to present their food waste separately for collection, again with an exemption for rural areas. In 2016, there was the Making Things Last, which is a strategy that was released, and it was the first time that the 33% reduction by 2025 was announced. In 2019, we have the Food Waste Reduction Action Plan. This plan, as I mentioned before, talks about sector leadership and improved measuring, monitoring how we can reduce waste. It was more of the this is how we can do it. And then to this year, there's the Single-Use Plastics Directive, Circular Economy Bill, the Waste Route Map, and the revised Food Waste Reduction Action Plan. So I'll quickly go through these. Don't want to spend too much time. I believe I'm going over time, but the Single-Use Plastic Directive legislation began on the 1st of June this year to encourage business to move away from single use. So what is in the mix? 7 different products, which include single-use plastic cutlery, plates, straws, drinksters, balloon sticks, expanded polystyrene food containers, and expanded polystyrene cups. Now we're asking businesses to rethink your operations to remove the need for single use in the first place. Use washable pots, jars, things that can be refilled, condiments. Whenever possible, they should just move away from single use, but switch to reusable, or provide refilling stations for water bottles, etc. Rethink how you rethink your setup and reduce the demand for single-use items. If it's not possible to remove certain single-use items, don't just always offer them, as in like napkins. Offer them when they're asked for. Only where you can't avoid single-use items, choose materials with the lowest environmental impact. So talk to your providers of your compostable, to your provider of your consumables, and your waste management company to see which has the lowest environmental impact. And make sure any single items you use are recycled or composted. I will send again all the links to our FAQs for the single-use plastic directives and a short presentation on that itself in the follow-up. We've also got some live consultations, which is the Circular Economy Bill. And circular economy is one where all resources are kept in use for as long as possible and benefit the environment by cutting waste and carbon emissions. That consultation itself covers 4 sections: it's strategic interventions, reduce and reuse, recycle, and littering and improving the enforcement of. There's also the waste route map. And this consultation sets out proposals for a route map to 2025, which is a plan to deliver Scotland's zero waste and circular economy ambitions. Both of these consultations are worth a look. Have a look in them, see what's there, and do feedback. And these consultations finish on the 22nd of August. And last, as I mentioned, there's a review of the Food Waste Reduction Action Plan. A lot has changed since its inception back in 2019. This will outline the progress that's been made, updated figures based on the data that we now have, guidance, support, as well as further interventions that can be implemented across all sectors to achieve our targets. And that's it from me. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks so much, Jerry. That was really interesting and really helpful to kind of set the scene for where we're at already in Scotland. It's great that we do have ambitious plans and yeah, exciting to help to bring about that change. But we know that for the industry, we don't just want to understand about what we need to do, but we also want to find out about how can we actually literally do that, what solutions are already available to us. So we know that there's no single silver bullet to any sustainability issue, and there's not one single solution for an issue like food waste. So we've got 2 different presenters for you today with different solutions in relation to food waste. So we're going to start off with Rory Gallagher from Olio, and I'll hand over to him just now to introduce to you what they can offer for the industry.
Yeah, hi everyone. I've got a presentation to share with you, so if you just bear with me. Let me know if you can see my screen. Can you see my screen, everyone?
Yeah, you've got the bar at the top again.
Sorry about this.
It looks like it's going to be it. Oh, that's me.
No, it's not working. There we go. That's better, isn't it? Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah, that's great, Rory.
Brilliant. So yes, so hi everyone, my name's Rory and I'm a business development manager at Olio. And I'm excited today to introduce you to Olio and share how we are helping our beautiful world by taking little daily actions. So first of all, I just wanted to start off with this quote by a lady called Jane Goodall, which is something we refer to often at Olio. Jane was an ethologist and best known for her long-term research on chimpanzees in Tanzania. And she, if I read you the quote, cumulatively, small decisions, choices, actions make a very big difference. What we like to talk about at Olio is how lots of small actions can lead, by lots of people can lead to big change. Amongst everything else, Jane Goodall grew up during the Second World War, so she knows a thing or two about the value of food and ensuring nothing is thrown away. We have a choice every day to what impact we make by the daily actions we take and influence our surroundings significantly. I invite you to listen to her. She really is a great source of inspiration. But yes, if you haven't heard of Olio before, it's an app allowing you to share surplus food amongst one's community and neighbours. So from my time at Olio and from using the app, I would describe it as bringing back the old ways of doing things in our modern world, with the idea of sharing being the essence of what Olio is about. The following story about what sparked Olio is a true example of how small actions can lead to big differences. So essentially the idea for Olio, the eureka moment, if you like, for the creation of Olio was back in 2014 when our founder, Tessa, was relocating back at the time from Switzerland to the UK. And she was told by the removal men to throw away all of her surplus food. Now, Tessa herself had grew up on a farm in Lancashire and understood the value of food, not just of the food itself, but the resources that go into producing that food. The shipping, the manufacturing, the distribution after the food has been made as well, all of which happens at great expense. As a result, she was very reluctant to throw this food away. She tried to give it away in her local neighborhood to her neighbors, to people on the street that she had noticed perhaps could benefit from it. Unfortunately, this was an awkward process. And it's worth pointing out that Tessa Tessa worked in digital marketing prior to creating Olio and understood there was an app for everything, but there wasn't necessarily an app to be able to share your surplus food. And so this was the sort of, as I say, the eureka moment for the creation of Olio, a very simple idea of being able to share your surplus food with your neighbor, a neighbor-to-neighbor food sharing app. So yeah, I just gave you just a brief overview of Olio. I'm going to go through over the course of this presentation, highlight the issue of food waste a bit more. I introduced you to Olio in further detail, our Food Waste Heroes program, which is how we work with businesses to help them eliminate their edible food waste, where we're currently at the moment, and what our ambitions are in the long term. So the problem, even though I do want to keep this presentation hopeful and positive, let's just run through a reality check. As I'm sure everyone here is aware, food issue is a big issue, and actually a much bigger problem than all the obsession around single-use plastics. Here's why. As Jerry just pointed out, what we thought was 1/3 of all food produced one-third of all food globally produced is wasted. We now know that's actually up to 40%, and this is worth $1 trillion per annum. Of course, this accounts for a horrible social issue. How is it possible that all of this food is going to waste annually, and meanwhile 8 to 12 million people are food insecure in the UK, and actually 800 million are hungry worldwide? But food waste isn't just a social issue. It also has a huge environmental impact due to the activities of overproduction on the land, the water usage, and then as I just described previously, the packaging, the manufacturing, the distribution of what happens to the food after it's been produced. And all of this is obviously at great expense. So in fact, if food waste were a country, it'd be the 3rd largest emitter of greenhouse gases after the US and China. This is primarily because when food is sent to landfill, it releases methane, which is 25 times more potent than CO2. So we now know that just 1 kilogram of food waste equates to the same amount of CO2 as landfilling 25,000 plastic bottles. So when we throw the food in the bin, we're not only wasting all the resources, as I keep mentioning, but we're sending this food to landfill and obviously producing a much greater environmental consequence. But as I said, I did want to keep this presentation hopeful and optimistic. So the good news is, because we know these facts and stats, we can work to be the solution. Like our co-founder and CEO, Tessa Clark, often reminds us, if we are part of the problem, we can be part of the solution. And here's how. We know that 40% of food produced globally is wasted, disaster. But the good news is that 70% of that waste happens at home. So because we are 70% of the problem, we can be 70% of the solution. So essentially, we have control over the problem. We also know that we can feed the 800 million people who are malnourished globally with only 25% of the food that is currently being wasted. So as I said, we are part of the problem, but we are part of the solution too. So how can we do this? Well, Olio is connecting neighbours and communities to share their surplus food from their homes, ensuring it doesn't get thrown away. And this is the basis of how Olio and how it first started in 2015. However, the first people to use Olio were carers of food waste, eco warriors, if you like, and our mission we didn't really have the surplus food on the app at the beginning, so the listings were scarce, but the demand was high. Over 50% of items on Olio get picked up within 30 minutes. So essentially, we realized that we needed to increase the amount of food that we had on our app to keep up with demand. And that's in part why we launched our what we now call our Food Waste Heroes program a couple of years ago now. So in fact, in 2018, where we partner with businesses to avoid food from going to waste. What we do is we have a network of volunteers. In fact, we have now in the UK over 50,000 volunteers across the UK. And we organize our volunteers to rescue food from these local business owners. They then share that food on our app, and users can claim these items in the same way anyone who uses Olio can. So although we know that only 30% of the 40% of food that goes to waste comes from businesses, this has been a critical program at Olio, attracting millions of users and volunteers with a delicious looking food added to the app on a daily basis, increasing the amount of daily actions and sharings in return. Of course, as I mentioned, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the millions of small action doers and volunteers helping us make a big difference. So as I mentioned, to date, we now have over 50,000 volunteers, and we have around 50,000 ambassadors across the UK who spread the word about Olio on goodwill. So we see ourselves as not just an app, but as a movement, looking to lead the way for more sustainable consumption. What the Food Waste Heroes program does is it solves a critical gap in the food waste hierarchy. So we are saving and sharing food that, of course, would otherwise have gone to waste for free from businesses. We're redistributing that food for free. We do charge the businesses that we work with a fee to collect that food, and then we share, as I say, that food via the app amongst the local community. So this is different to charities or even the many apps that sell surplus food for a discounted price. We are essentially the gap just before the food starts going to feed animals or for energy treatments such as anaerobic digestion or compost. But I wanted to refer back to Jane Goodall's quote we started this presentation with regarding how small actions can lead to big differences. And let's see how Olio is proving this. Well, since January 2021 till January 22, beginning of the year, obviously, just with little action from our network of volunteers and 6 million users, we have managed to successfully help with sharing just over 26 million portions of food. That's the equivalent of 12 million meals shared and over 4 million families fed. So for each individual action, for each piece of food saved, this may not seem like it's making a huge difference, but our community highlights how billions of small actions can collectively have an enormous impact. To date, we have over 6 million users worldwide who save half a million portions of who have saved half a million portions of food from going in the bin every week. Let's set the scenario. It's Friday evening and you've been working hard all week. You're hungry and you fancy a nice cooked meal. What app do you open up? Deliveroo. Second scenario is it's now Saturday evening and you're meeting your friends at the theatre and you're running a little late but don't own a car. What app do you open? Uber. We want to be the app. The world opens when you have a full fridge and you're going on holiday tomorrow. The app you open when you have amazing, delicious food that you can't eat alone. And by 2030, we're aiming to have 1 billion users. In our own founders' words, we're not 100% sure how we're going to get there, but by working hard together, lots of ambition, and with the help of kind-hearted people who believe in our mission and saving surplus food from going to waste and feeding our neighbours instead. Referring back to Jane Goodall's quote, the small actions, the bigger the impact will be. Let's normalise sharing food, download the app and help us reach 1 billion users and create a sustainable food production system. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Rory. That was great. I was really amazed both at your statistic of 8 to 12 million people in the UK being food insecure, and also that half of the food that goes onto the app gets collected within 30 minutes. That's really amazing. So it shows the demand for the food getting eaten somewhere else, which is feels
I mean,
like
obviously with the cost, as Jerry touched on, obviously with the cost of living crisis as it is right now, and the cost of food rising as it has done, you know, there's a real demand for solutions like Olio to be able to not only help businesses, you know, reach their net zero targets mandated by government, but also to give back to local communities who actually really need that food as well. And that's kind of what the program in a nutshell is about.
Amazing. I'm going to go on to Jack just now to give his presentation for Vegware, and then we should have 40 minutes for Q&A. So if people have got questions, then I know I've got quite a few myself, as well as the ones that we've got in from the registration process. So I'll hand over to Jack to give his presentation, and then we can get into questions about all the ins and outs from the sector. You're on mute, Jack.
Well, that kind of answers my question of, is that working okay? But no. Right, great. Well, you can see this now. Well, yeah, so hello, my name's Jack Smart, and I'm one of the waste management consultants at Vegware. So we're an Edinburgh-based company that produces compostable packaging and supports our customers to compost this packaging at the end of its life cycle. We've won over 70 awards for sustainability, innovation and growth, and we operate in 80 countries worldwide. So I'm just going to give you a quick overview today of our compostable products, what they're made of, and then the solutions that are available. And I'll focus at the end on Scottish film catering specifically. So our main messaging for our materials is that it's made from plants. So I'm just going to give you a quick run through of the products and yeah, what they're made of. So our main substitute for conventional plastic is PLA, and this is polylactic acid. And PLA is made from sugars. So this is typically sugarcane or cornstarch. And then next to that, we have CPLA, which is the crystallized polylactic acid. And this has a higher heat kind of resistance. So this is when added chalk is to it. So PLA is for like our cold products, cold cup lids, and CPLA is for our hot products, such as cutlery and lids for our hot soup containers. So looking at the production side of PLA, there is a significant benefit of using PLA. Because it is made from plant sugars instead of traditional oil taken out of the ground, there can be up to a 75% reduction in its carbon footprint, or an 8% reduction in greenhouse gases. And these are from peer-reviewed reports. So I can share them with you at the end if you would like to read through 20 pages of carbon footprinting. Yeah, obviously, we're being realists. Not all of our products will end up in a composting stream, but fear not. When incinerated for energy to the grid, PLA produces more energy than newspaper, wood, or food waste, and produces no harmful volatile gases. And then when found in landfill, it remains inert and doesn't generate methane. So that's just, it's not so bad when it can end up in the correct waste stream. Next, we have bagasse, which is kind of a substitute for polystyrene, which Jerry said was getting banned in Scotland earlier. So this is a great substitute and it's a great product. Yeah, so it's made from a waste product of the sugarcane industry. So once the sugarcane has been pressed for its juices, the materials left is called bagasse, but this can be pressed into plates and boxes. And yeah, and it's good because it's using a waste, and it's also a really breathable material. So I don't know if you've ever got chips on a late night and they're really sweaty and it's all gross. This kind of lets your food breathe out. So it's actually is a better product. Next, we have NatureFlex. So this is our kind of clear film that's made from wood pulp, typically eucalyptus trees. And yeah, fun fact about these, you'll all have seen these because it's the wrappers on quality streets. So they're actually compostable. We use a lot of paper and card, which is naturally a compostable material. This is all sustainably sourced, and we used recycled contents wherever possible. We're introducing new paper products, our cutlery, because PLA, CPLA can sometimes be banned, in which Scotland legislation is looking to ban that. So we've got substitute paper products, which are great. Yeah, so we've just kind of seen a oh god, here's our team winning packaging award for the Free From Expo recently for our paper products, cutlery products. So we're seeing, yeah, a kind of huge shift away from plastic towards paper and card in our kind of industry, and this is something that we've been innovating on for ages. And even depending on local infrastructure, you can actually recycle these with your card if they're dry and clean. To keep going on our materials, Matter B, this is what our bio bags are made of. They're also plant-based. All of our things are plant-based. Yeah, and they're made from vegetable oil, starch, sugar, beet pulp, or thistle, but it's actually Italian thistles and not Scottish thistles, which I was disappointed about. But yeah, and then finally we have our inks. Yeah, and they're all water and vegetable based, and yeah, in line with the compostability standards, and we can put whatever you like on there, all within reason. But we've got a great in-house creative team, so you can relay any messaging that you might have on site. So, okay, I've gone through the products. Now we're getting to the compostable part. Obviously, we want to see our products being composted wherever possible. That's really what we're about. It's compostable packaging. And we really see compostables as being the solution to recycling everything and reaching zero waste within the food service industry. Obviously, conventional takeaway packaging can be difficult to recycle if it's made of a mix of materials. So take a sandwich box, for example, it might be made of cardboard on the back, but its plastic film is a different kind of waste stream. So these can't be necessarily mixed together. So then they might end up in general waste for incineration. Also, speaking to recycling plants, they say when they get paper and cards and even other more conventional plastics covered in food waste, they can't accept these, and these then go for incineration or landfill because the grease is too hard to get out of them. So with Vegware and compostable catering packaging, everything shares the same recycling stream. So that's including the food waste that's left on it. So you can chuck it all in together, chuck it in with your sandwich wedge or the bit of soup that you have at the bottom, and you're not going to worry about it contaminating. So it actually also makes it easier for consumers to engage on this as well. Yeah, and in doing so, we actually collect more food scraps to go to composting or anaerobic digestion, because you're not separating it out in a general waste bin to kind of have your packaging if you're putting it in conventional recycling. So yeah, they can all go together, and so we can capture it all. Or yeah. So yeah, our approach is to be a solutions-based company. So it's not just been about selling the products, but it's been working with customers to really help them bring the products back and making sure that they are getting the full benefit of the products and disposing of them correctly. So we work really hard to do this. So our approach has been to connect the dots of all the different stakeholders on our products. So first, all of our products are fully compliant and have the deepest set of compost standards, and that's EN 13432. Yeah, which means that they will break down in industrial composting facilities within 12 weeks. So we'll make sure that the products are all correct and correctly certified, and then we will work with composting facilities. We've trialed these around 27 UK facilities, and it's about building the trust with these composters and make sure that they're happy with the products and that they actually break down, so that we're confident that when we send it off and they're confident when they take it in, that the product actually works. And yes, it does. And then we work with loads of waste collectors around the UK. So this is about people collecting our products and getting them to the right facilities. And then, yeah, so that's just how we patch it all together. And then on our end, we support our clients and we give them expert consultancy on how to compost successfully, how to reduce contamination. And we've got loads of tools that help our customers do that. And we really kind of help them piece it all together. So about regular composting collections, this is our coverage. So by the end of 2021, commercial, this is wheelie bin collections I'm talking about, we'll be able to service 46 of the UK's 100 largest towns. And this equates to roughly 69% of the UK population. We've worked really hard over the years to make this possible, and it's something we're really proud of. I know it's not full coverage, but we are really proud of this, because in 2012, commercial composting was only available in Aberdeenshire, and that's across the whole UK. So we've worked hard with those in the waste sector and other collaborators to really push up this network, and we're constantly working to get full coverage for regular composting collections. And sorry, these are alternatives, but I'll talk about them in a slide's time, or 2 slides time. So yeah, these are just some of the towns just in Scotland. It's Edinburgh, Glasgow, Dundee, Aberdeen, and yeah, and then the rest of them, I'll let you just glance over, but because I know it's not fully relevant for this presentation. So to look back at some of the other options, if there's not a regular collection, so we have a postback services, and this covers 100% of the UK. And there's quite a few options depending on what size of box you need. So for example, first we have Recycle Box by First Mile, and this is a courier-led service for kind of smaller cafes and individuals, in which they send you a box, and then you can arrange for a courier to pick it up for a cost, and that'll get taken to the correct IBC composting facility. And then we also have Refactory, which is serviced by My Group, and this is a relatively new service, which includes a big pallet option. So this will be great for a lot of people on this call, because it can take a large amount of Vegware, up to 30 to 40 kind of compostable sacks. And that can then be shipped to a location, and then it can be collected from there and taken to a composting site. Services like this are a bit more premium than regular collections, but they're a great option for more ad hoc pickups. So yeah, very, very relevant for people on this call. Sorry, the next 2 options, they're not so relevant for this, but this is like on-site composting units. So they're kind of halfway down is the Rocket by Tidy Planet, which is a small on-site composting unit. These are a slight investment, but they're kind of good when there's like stationary sites and they know there's regular kind of food waste or compostable packaging that can also be processed in these. So we worked well with Dundee and Angus College, who for their part of their horticultural program have this installed, and they use the compost on their site, and it's all used from their cafes' food waste. And also then there's dedicated collections, and this is where a skip's used. So it's kind of like a larger UK-wide postback, but so it's kind of a massive skip would be sent, and this is for the larger estates, kind of corporate venues, large manufacturing sites. And then when this is full, we can help kind of consult on how to get this back to the right facility of full used Vegware and food waste. So yeah, this is a kind of 5 steps to zero waste, and how we would help a new customer set up a composting scheme. Oh, sorry. So first, we would recommend to go 100% compostable on their products where you can. So this is to simplify the recycling and to reduce the contamination risk. So yeah, we would want to also, it's easier for customer to client, and it helps us keep our composters happy that there's no mixed kind of can recycling or cup recycling that's made from, say, traditional PET or polypropylene. So that we would recommend that first, and then we would recommend to find the best recycling solution and to label your bins, so we can work with you to see who's the best to recycle with, and then we can help you with signage and engagement, and to help fully communicate that system at the point of disposal. But we can also help communicate that system at the point of sale of the product. So we can use posters, we've got table talkers, we've got a great like video that you can put on screens to really kind of help relay the system to your customers. So that's a great way, so that they're not just making that decision at the bin, that they already know this is compostable, this goes there. We also run training and engagement days. So we can either come into sites and really kind of help on do a hands-on with your staff, or we can send off training fact sheets, which are a great way to kind of get people understanding the new waste route. And then finally, we can measure and communicate this, and share and shout about your successes. We have an in-house comms team, which love to shout about customers that compost and fully close that loop. And so they can do case studies, if they're video case studies or PDFs, and help shout about it on your socials. So this is from a professor on behavioral psychology. This is a quote about Vegware, so don't just take it from me. So Vegware onboarding process provides a comprehensive package of support to transition to source segregation compostable packaging, and then to stick with it. So we want customers, once they make the change, to fully be engaged with it, and it becomes part of their norm. And ask Professor Thomas Webb if we're good at that. So we do a really hands-on approach, and we really want to make sure that you get the best benefit of your products. So who composts? Who's going to hopefully be like you guys? We service loads of different sites, ranging from cared offices, film studios, universities, government offices, to name a few. There's a list of some of them there. One I'd like to share with you is the Glasgow Science Centre. So we've been working with this venue for years, but obviously particularly in November when they were hosting COP26, they had a team that was getting 900 meals a day for like the behind the scenes for the green zone at the COP26. And we had used all our products for that, and we composted that, and we were collecting 72 wheelie bins a week composting. Which was great. And then because that was in November, that will now be compost, and that will be feeding Scottish soils. So we're really pleased to be a part of that and part of COP26. So more specifically, in the film and TV production, we work with a couple of clients in Scotland already, LS Productions and Spider Pictures. We collect their compostable waste. In England, Red Chuckney, Location 1, and a more globally sustainable film, and Green Eyes, to just name a few. For a testimony from Green Eyes, that we were working in Hungary and advising them on how to compost their Vegware products. This was on a huge film, probably one we all know about, but we can't say. But it was a really good success, and they fully recommend our services. So this to kind of bring us back to how we do it in Scotland specifically. I kind of lead the charge on our Close the Loop Scotland collections, and this is our in-house own waste management service. So we collect the waste ourselves and take it to the correct processing facility, so it can break down into high-grade compost. So we kind of covered the Central Belt, so from Glasgow, Paisley, all the way up to Dundee and St Andrews, and everywhere in between. And then this will collect it, and it will break down in 6 to 8 weeks into high-grade compost for Scottish fields. So hopefully that's something we can do with you in the Scottish film and TV sector. And now that we know who we are and what we can do. So thank you very much, and thank you for listening and having us along, and look forward to your questions.
Thanks so much, Jack. It was great to see all the different options of how you can compost, because I know that we've got crew on the call who will be thinking about the locations filming and the ad hoc kind of nature of that, but we've also got studio managers who are obviously permanently based and thinking about the infrastructural side of things, but also the production team as well, thinking about the production base, which should have a permanent base somewhere for the duration of the production. So we've got quite a few questions that came in from the registration. Does anybody, do any of the attendees want to come in with any questions just now, or should I just kickstart with the ones we've already got in? Anybody want to put their hand? Nope. Okay, I will get started. The first question was, if a production company wants to ensure it uses compostable and recycling packaging wherever possible, where should they start? So I think we've had a great presentation from Vegware, so say you guys are a good place to start. And
yeah, our at sales would have loved to we'd love to pick up stuff, and then it goes via us, and we then do the harder composting stuff. But go via Vegware.
And then to follow on from that, we've got can Vegware close the loop campaign be used on temporary locations, i.e. shooting on locations for a few days with a handful of prep and strike days either side?
Yeah, well, that's something certainly we can do. It's not our kind of typical kind of normal schedule, but if it's within that central belt, and we could possibly get a bin to for a kind of one-off site. I know we serviced a school that had a kind of summer fair 2-3 weeks ago, and we helped them engage that and helped them with signage and had to make sure it was the least amount of contamination as possible. So that's certainly possible within our coverage area. But then, as I said, there's the options of more UK wide or more remote, on which we can also help advice. Obviously, we've not got the hands-on approach of who's actually collecting it, but we've got good relationships with these collectors, and we only recommend ones that we know are trustworthy and worthwhile and go to the right facilities. So but even if you go through that route, we can help you with the engagement. It's not exclusive to the Scottish close the loop customers that are using our in-house. So yeah, certainly we can help, and if it's just a week or a one-off collection, we can help find a solution on that.
That's great. And we do crew drop-in sessions on a quarterly basis, and one of the things that came up, food waste has come up as a kind of question quite a few times in different drop-in sessions and panel discussions before. And one of the things that crew were saying that they were aware of the contamination of packaging going into food waste bins. So obviously it's great to know that we've got the composting packaging that's also got an option to go in with the food waste and literally be taken away, because obviously in some food waste composting processes you can't do that even with the composting packaging. But do you know kind of what level, like how do you kind of prevent contamination? Is there once you've got the food waste with even your own Vegware packaging in it, if there was, for example, like a crisp packet or something, a different type of packaging in with that mix, is there a process that would take that out, or how do you kind of prevent that, or do you know what's your kind of average amount of waste that you're able to take away that's actually able to get composted?
Well, that would be up for the whatever composter it would go to. I know there is processes of screening, taking out kind of obvious contaminants such as cans or whatnot. Yeah, so that can be screened. As in, I'm sorry, what was the latter part of your question?
Just whether, like, do you have a figure of kind of like Vegware know that you're able to reclaim
well, obviously we try to get 100%. We want to keep composters as happy as possible. Obviously that maybe doesn't happen. The composter would probably say 5 to 10% that they could handle with their screening process. Yeah, so it's the infrastructure is built for a bit of contamination. Obviously, it's not something we encourage, and we don't want people to be lax in their approach to it. But obviously, mistakes are made from time to time, and so, but it's not going to break down the whole system.
Great. Super helpful. Jerry, I'm going to come back to you actually, because I know that when we saw right at the start the food waste hierarchy, you obviously started with the idea of prevention in the very first place, of just trying to avoid there being food waste in the first place. So aside from the idea of getting kind of uneaten food waste into the hands of somebody else who can eat it, do you have kind of recommendations for our caterers in terms of how to actually prevent there being food that's wasted that could be eaten in the first place? Because obviously that kind of also speaks to the financial side of things, with productions trying to save money for not wasting money in the food waste that's generated.
Yeah, as I say, it's kind of almost like event catering when you're feeding people en masse. It's mostly about about planning. Now, it's very difficult to plan with a lot of these things because they can be ad hoc, and I'm not in the film and TV, but as far as I understand it, they can be, you know, it's go for a break now or you're not getting a break, that kind of thing. So food has to be available, but it's getting about the communication between the caterers and, you know, the production to see, you know, how many people will be eating, what times they'll be eating, you know, and just planning properly so you can batch cook properly, cook in smaller batches rather than big batches, because that's only got 2 hours before it can be, if it's hot food, before it can be before it has to be, you know, thrown away. So it's all about that planning and just have a look and see what you're wasting. If you do it, as I said many times, if you measure what you are wasting just now, then that's when you can start putting in, identifying some of the waste hotspots and putting into place some interventions that can stop it. But planning is a big part of it, and I think it's probably it's pretty bold saying this because I'm not in that industry, but it's probably easier to plan the numbers because there's only a certain amount of people that are at a production site than it is to plan for, say, a tapas restaurant on a Saturday night. I don't know, I may be wrong, but I was just thinking you know, it's planning your cooking as well as your ordering and preparation time.
Great. We've got a few hands up. I didn't see who put their hand up first, so I've got Jen on the left-hand side of my screen, and I know, Jen, that you're working in the production department on production, so really keen to hear your question.
Yeah, I have to say, just apologies because I did have a couple phone calls coming in. So if someone has already asked this question or said what I'm about to ask, then yeah, apologies. But my question is more, I guess, directed at Jack in terms of the Vegware and the sort of close the loop collection and how that works, because so the job I'm on at the moment, you know, we start filming in August and we're going to have, you know, 80 to 100 people on set every day. There will be food waste, and I'm really keen to get something in place to manage that. But the problem that we tend to have is because we will essentially move location every day and be in a new place every day, although we'll still probably be mostly in Glasgow as a whole. We will never be in the same place within Glasgow. So in terms of kind of sort of composting and this sort of closed loop scheme, I mean, how does that work for businesses like us, which are sort of on the move?
Yeah, well, there is the options of the kind of post-pack courier services. I don't know if you heard that bit earlier, in which there's either, no, it's fine. There's boxes of ranging sizes, selling from this size basically to a pallet size in which you can get the 30 to 40 bags on. So these can be collected from specific locations. Those services aren't run by ourselves, but we would recommend them. As for our own, I know that some of our customers, if there's on multiple locations, they would then collect their waste themselves and transport it all to kind of a central hub. So a kind of more regular. Yeah. But I know Location One in London do that because they pick it up from various places, and then they would pick up from their main depot in London for it to be composted. Okay. So that's a possibility. There probably are the two possibilities for that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because it's something that the food waste is the big thing, because I've had some horrible rumors as well told to me that sometimes we try and put food waste collection things in place on our end, and then when they get picked up, they end up in one bin. And so, yeah, locations teams are a bit nervous about using sort of food wasting. So if there is like a reliable service like the one that you guys are providing, then that's definitely of huge interest.
Yeah, and as I said, the benefit of using Vegware and closed loop services, if you switch all of your compostables to Vegware, and then they're 100% compostable, then just everything can go in the same bin, and it makes the whole system a lot easier to communicate to people on site.
Yep.
Amazing. I'm going to go to Karis. You've got your hand up as well.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, thanks everyone. Really good to know about all of this. I'm with Screen Scotland, so we're kind of a funding agency for the screen industry. I was just wondering what the cost implications are for the service and any kind of pricing differences for the products at all. I don't know if you are able to share that, or whether it's kind of a negotiation project to project.
Is that for anybody in particular?
Just for everyone, really.
Do you want to, Rory, should we put that to you first? Because
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, so we offer kind of different services. So we do run, what we typically try and do is run a regular collection service. And typically speaking, we'll charge something like £10 for that. That's typical of an ongoing collection. But we also run an ad hoc collection service whereby we'll charge something like £25 for an ad hoc, so a one-off collection. The difference being, obviously, it's much more time intensive for us to set up an ad hoc, and obviously that then we're not that slot isn't ongoing, and therefore makes it, as I say, more expensive for us to do that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and like with the collection, I'm kind of like Jen, I'm from the locations team. When it comes to the collection, so say if we were the locations team and we were clearing up and you were moving on to the next location, and you kind of have like 10 minutes to wait before you need to be in the next place, do you have a certain window that you can stick to, or is it a certain time, or would it be like a 1 hour window or a 2 hour window that you could say you could be there?
Yeah, so the thing is, think of it like this. So when we're setting up collections, we need to go away and recruit food waste heroes from the local area, so volunteers in and around that from that site, this location. So we try and ensure that we're recruiting food waste heroes within a 2-kilometer radius of the location that they're picking up from. But that can take a little bit of time, right? And it depends on where the location is. If it's in a more rural location, it will take us longer. If it's obviously in an urban, if it's in a city location, then it's really quick. It can be really fast for us to recruit. But regardless of that, it would take us, at least we'd need a couple of days, really. But I mean, we can move quite quickly too, for an ad hoc. So, we can, in theory, potentially sort of, if you gave us a day's notice, I think we could do that.
Cool. Thank you.
We've got a question in the chat as well from Suzanne, which is asking, can Olio only process food that is packaged? What are the health and safety rules around sharing cooked food? Just thinking about location catering.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, again, what makes us unique and why there is a reason for us to exist is charities, for example, can't take certain food types. So what makes us unique is we can take whatever food type your business has. So whether it's hot food, cold food, ambient, frozen, we're covered from a liability perspective to come and collect that food and redistribute it. So our food waste heroes have to go through a kind of thorough vetting process and an induction and a couple of inductions to ensure that they really understand what's required of them when picking up different food types. So if, for example, if it's hot food that's being cooked, we have 1.5 hours upon picking it up to redistribute that. And our food waste heroes would also need to ensure that the food, when they go and collect hot food, is either being kept above 63 degrees or beneath 8 degrees, in keeping with food safety standards. But as long as it's in keeping with those standards, yeah, we're covered, and we do collect hot food from many businesses up and down the country and redistribute that. So yes.
Amazing, thanks. Lawrence, you've got your hand up as well.
Hello. Yeah, thanks very much for your talks. 2 questions. Probably I'd say one's probably for Jerry, and then maybe the other one is for Jack. So the first one is around, I suppose, the issue of kind of plastic packaging for food. And this one's, I suppose, what I'm thinking for Jerry in terms of what data is there around kind of carbon impact of, reducing plastic packaging for food waste, speeding up kind of the breakdown of foods, but without that kind of plastic, negative impact there. So that's the first question. And the second question was just I was just trying to understand from Jack, in terms of large composting sites, in terms of industrial composting sites, is temperature pretty much the only key difference with home composting, or is there more to it other than temperature? Yeah, thank you.
Cool. I'll jump in first then on the the carbon impact. I said the packaging isn't generally my forte. I'm more about the food waste prevention, but there are impact assessments that were undertaken for the single-use plastic directive that I can forward you on afterwards. It'll give you some of the kind of carbon impacts of some of these materials, so you can read that. It's some of them are quite in depth, but yeah, they're worth a read as well. But I'll put them in the follow-up email as well, Lawrence.
And the
sorry.
second part, Jack.
Yeah, the second part of your question, yeah, temperature, yeah, but the mix, yeah, it needs to kind of get above 60 degrees to kill the pathogens in it, to make sure that it can be past 100 compost certified at the end of its life. We have had some successful trials in hot compost bins, but you would need to be really good at composting and make sure the mix is right. So we necessarily wouldn't recommend it, because people will be like, why is there half a chunk of a plate in it if I've not done it right? So that's why typically we'd go to a kind of professional composting facility.
Cool, thanks, Jack. I've got another question for you actually from the chat, which is from Maria, which is asking, are Vegware available only in the UK or globally?
Well, we are kind of globally for closed loop collections. We're working on kind of building infrastructure around the world. I think it's still in its kind of infancy, but it depends what country you're in. So Italy, for example, they're miles ahead of every other country with their kind of composting and food waste collection. So yeah, it can all go into your at home food waste bin. Where so it depends on each country and each country's infrastructure, but we've worked hard to build this network in the UK, and because we've got to this point now, we're starting to look at other countries as well. So yeah, maybe in a few years I can give you a more concrete answer, but it depends. As one of my examples was, a location in Hungary, and we managed to kind of work with waste collectors there and composters there. But as a dedicated route service, the UK is kind of our primary focus at this current time.
Amazing. We've got another question from Suzanne, which is, what is the preferred packaging for cooked location catering to share with Olio? So I think the question is, what packaging should you use when you're using the Olio food waste app?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so we don't at the moment, we don't tell you what sort of food packaging you have to use. Obviously we would encourage you to use something like Vegware, something that obviously has a positive environmental consequence. So yeah, I mean, but we don't insist on that as of yet. It is something we're looking at though. So in a nutshell, it's up to you as a business.
I'm just thinking, if you've got significant quantities, rather than individual portions, like if they've made a huge lasagna and there's 15 portions left, do you want that then individually?
Oh, I see what you mean. Right. Yes. So ideally individually, because obviously the end consumer is going to be, a person.
Okay.
I mean, the thing is, if for example, you had a great, as you mentioned, like a great vat of lasagna, and it could be a bit of an operational undertaking to package that up individually. It's not, that's not to say that you couldn't sort of put it into a 2 or 3 person portion, and in that way that could be used to feed a family rather than an individual. So yeah, you can mix it up. Obviously, ideally, we'd like it individually portioned, but yeah, you can do it in bigger portion sizes as well.
Thanks.
Maria, you've got your hand up as well. Have you got something to add? I know you.
Yeah, I do. If you don't, thank you so much for answering my question. Sorry, I'm not feeling 100%. My organisation that I work for is part of the Global United Nations Global Compact, and we've recently signed projects. We're under NDA, so I can't tell you what project is, but we're going to be working globally across lots of different nations and regions, and Italy is one of the countries that I'm working on, which is so fantastic to hear. But talking about Olio, do you work in other countries as well, or is it just mainly like the UK?
No, so we're international. We're in a variety of different countries. We've had a lot of traction in South America, in Mexico, Chile, But yeah, we are internationally, so you know we're in a lot of different countries. We're in Singapore, we're in Netherlands. You know, the list goes on.
Fantastic. How can sorry, I'm really bad with numbers because I've got dyscalculia and things like that. Is there any way that you can send information out to us so we can actually have a look at that? If that
Definitely.
would be fantastic. Thank you
We'll
so
do-
much.
We'll
No
do a
problem.
follow-up afterwards with everybody's PowerPoints and other information. So we'll get that to you, Maria. I've got another question that came in ahead from the registration, which is a question saying, will you be covering zero waste to landfill at all and food waste collections from locations? We did the food waste collections from location, so zero waste to landfill. I'd also written down when you were talking, I'll put this to Jerry. Jerry, when you were talking earlier, I was thinking about what does zero food waste to landfill for Scotland look like? Like, will there be a time where productions and just companies in Scotland in general will be penalised for example, food waste in the general waste bin? Like, what will that look like in terms of how companies will need to change with the new legislation?
Well, there obviously will be. It's a bit of speculation, but it depends which way the government wants to go with things and what comes from consultations, etc. But you know, I'm sure there will be some kind of penalties for contamination of food waste going to landfill in the future. So that's why just now it's especially relevant to start reducing your waste just now before it becomes legislation and before the penalties arrive. Get into that, change those behaviours just now, just so that it's a it's part of your DNA now, so and everybody else appreciates that. And I think again, it's when you're on site and the messaging continues on site, as in with the signage from Olio and signage from Vegware, things that the more sustainability is reinforced and food waste prevention messaging is reinforced, the more it will become, you know, everybody will be aware of it and be more discerning and a bit more careful about how they consume and dispose of things.
Great, that's really helpful. And you mentioned as well the food waste pilot. How would productions get involved with that, and kind of what would that process be like for them?
Sure. Now, back to one of the other questions. How much do we cost? Well, to quote, "Are you being served? I'm free." So any of the support that we've got digital resources, as I said earlier on, they're all free. An email to me costs nothing. A telephone call to me costs nothing, and I can come out on site and view the sites in particular and give you again a small action plan for that particular site. That is all free. And if there is, again, it's quite a unique landscape that you guys are dealing with, so it would be interesting to actually build a pilot around a location-driven catering exercise. So that's something that we could do together, is build a pilot, and then from them the learnings can be taken from that particular pilot and, you know, disseminated across the industry. But there's nothing on my books for this year with regards to that kind of pilot, but yes, definitely worth taking a conversation further. But there are other things, as again, I'll send links like a food waste challenge, those kind of pilots. They are live and open to anybody, and again, that's free.
So feasibly, could that look like, would that pilot look like the process of trying to prepare a production to have the minimum waste as possible existing, but it could also potentially be a pilot of the likes of Olio, like a production using Olio food waste app and Vegware? Is that the type of thing? And
yeah, it would be kind of, let's see about how we can reduce the food waste, and then Olio being part of the redistribution, Olio and other apps like that could help, and it would reduce your food waste. And yeah, it's all part of the interventions. You know, redistribution is a fantastic way to feed the local community, so it's great intervention. So that would be part of a waste reduction action plan.
And then that, because I know you mentioned as well about the consultation from Scottish Government, who's looking at circular economy on the whole in Scotland. So that kind of feedback would be, I'm sure, helpful for them, because obviously, like you said, like we are an unusual industry because of the ad hoc nature of how we work, but we're also similar to the likes of events industry, for example. So yep. I'm sure where possible, we'd be happy to kind of feed back up that kind of information to help. change the system on the whole.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, the pilots are a two-way street. It gives both you and your industry kind of a kind of blueprint of how to move forward, but it also kind of feeds back to the decision makers as well.
Amazing. We've got another hand up from Sarah.
Sorry, can I just jump in very quickly in regards to the cost, because I didn't mention something that I think I should have done, which is what we provide is obviously a collection service, and we charge accordingly, but we also provide to our business owners impact reports. So we measure the amount of food that we pick up from any business from a collection, and then we're able to feed back in the form of an impact report the difference that food has made from a social and environmental perspective. So things like from a social perspective, we highlight the food that you've given to us has benefited by a certain amount of local families being fed from that, the amount of meal equivalents provided in the local area, and then from metrics from an environmental perspective, things like CO2 emissions avoided, the amount of fresh water saved, car miles taken off the road, and obviously we feed back these impact reports to our business owners on a regular basis to allow them to highlight the fact that they are making a difference to be more sustainable and give back to local communities.
Amazing, and it's great that it's a very holistic approach in that respect, in terms of like looking at sustainability not just from the carbon counting. It's the food, zero waste to landfill, but also the social side, the social benefit of what a solution like that's offering. I don't know, Jack, did you want to talk to the question about pricing as well, because I realise we didn't come to you when that was asked earlier.
Yeah. Well, for our Scottish close the loop, we would see on a site-to-site basis, but roughly for a regular wheelie bin, £11 per uplift. We could also do so a regular wheelie bin is 240 litres. We also offer an option of 360 litres, which would be £13.50. So that's a more cost-effective way to give an idea of price. Obviously, this slightly varies, 50p or so, depending on location and frequency. But then for the more ad hoc or the pallet service or the courier box service, you would have to speak to the company that we would recommend, and they would give you a price on that. And then for the wider UK, say in London, we would advise on what waste collector to use, and yeah, they would give you a quote on that.
Amazing. Sarah, we'll come to you now. Thanks, Jack.
Thanks for this, really interesting, really important. Mairi Claire, I just wondered, is there any lobby going towards the commissioners? Because I think everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people understand the importance of this, a lot, whether it be locations, production, a lot of people want to do this, but the bottom line, which I think is stopping productions, is money to do it, and also time, and having kind of focused people kind of focusing on it and making sure that things happen. So I just wondered, is there a lobby happening, going to broadcasters, commissioners, to say that this is absolutely imperative to add in as a budget line? And if so, brilliant, and if not, what can we do? And just to say, I think the pilot is a really important thing to do, because I think if we can demonstrate, show a production, and with Zero Waste working with Jack and Rory and whoever else, if one production can demonstrate exactly how it can work, planning and pre-production all the way through, whether they're up a mountain or in the middle of Glasgow, whatever, and just what the costs are going to be, that would be so much easier to then roll out to other productions. And if there's anything I can do to help with that, then I'd be delighted to help. But I'm brilliant that you've put on this session, so thank you.
Amazing. So it's worth saying, so I work, I'm obviously hosted with BECTU Vision, but I do work very closely with the Screen Commission, with Screen Scotland. So we are already talking about the potential to put criteria onto Screen Scotland's film fund, and I know that's a conversation that's not just unique to Scotland, across the UK, where we've got Lawrence on the call who's also from Film London. It's equivalent to me down there, and there's also an equivalent to me in Wales and Northern Ireland. And through the BFI on the whole, this is something that we've been talking about in relation to film funds and what does environmental criteria look like in that respect. So in Scotland specifically, we're already writing a kind of template for what we think that should look like for productions, but we also realise that the process of implementation can be different to theories around how things would work on the ground. So we want to have a kind of trial period, at least in this first year, of the productions that are coming through receiving the funding. So it won't be an official criteria, but behind closed doors or within the process of the productions receiving the funding, we'll be speaking with them about what their engagement will be, asking the questions for sure, and speaking to them about how we can basically help them to reduce their impact, so that we can find that space and place of what is radical requests of productions, but also something that's fair to them, that it can actually literally be implemented. Because it's all very well, I'm sure the majority of people want to reduce waste and carbon impacts, but it's only going to be possible if there are actually solutions to help productions do that. So yeah, so it's definitely something that in Screen Scotland we're already in the process of trying to get that implemented, and I know that's kind of replicated across the UK. So there could also be a framework for funding across the UK that's kind of quite standard, basically, for our industry in the UK. Lawrence, go to you.
Yeah, hello. I just wanted to actually jump in on that as well, if that's okay. And obviously, hi, I'm Lawrence from Film London, Sustainability Manager. I work very closely with Mairi Claire on kind of issues that apply to all of us. Obviously, I'm very aware this is a Scottish-focused event, but I just wanted to kind of give some additional information as to what is going on across the UK. And I'd say this is very much a Scotland and kind of down south as well, where I work in London. So what I was just going to quickly add to that point is around the idea of sustainability coordinators, sustainability department on productions. I think this is the way that absolutely, I think going back a little while, there was a bit of a kind of a belief of, oh, sustainability should be kind of everybody's job. And this is a lovely idea that we're all doing this in a production, but we also know how hard we work, how many hours we work, how much we've already got to do. And the reality is that these things kind of can easily fall by the wayside unless you happen to have somebody that is very passionate in their role, who's prepared to kind of take on that extra work. What we're working on across the UK now collectively is to really push forward these sustainability specific roles and developing that as a department, because I know where this is successful, a lot of the time you have sustainability coordinators on those jobs. Their job is exactly, and I know people that work with Olio already, and they're working with other services that can help in other departments as well, and it's their job to do that. So they'll work with the caterers and they'll say, right, what food we've got left? We know that we've got the delivery that are arriving in half an hour. We've got the waste from our food packaging. We know that needs to go to the compost. That's their job. I think actually making this a real tangible part of a production is the way that we do this. And it starts by us having those conversations and really supporting those roles on productions. And that's something that is developing at the moment, is building up. And I think we'll see a lot more of it, hopefully over the next year or two.
Great, thanks, Lawrence. And it's worth saying that we're, even actually this week, we're going to be holding a consultation with the existing environmental coordinators, because in Scotland, for those of you who won't have come across this role before, we've had our first environmental coordinator on a production just this year. So it's a really new role for Scotland, and we're very aware we want to actively encourage productions to have this role on the majority of productions, if not all of them. But we also know we can't ask that of productions until there's actually people who both know the film and TV industry, who also understand the environmental and sustainability aspects of how a production can reduce its waste and carbon impact. So so this Friday we're consulting with the existing coordinators across the UK to ask them what do they think the gaps in training are, so that we can develop the training, bring it to the UK and roll it out across the UK, and then we can be asking productions to have that as part of a criteria for film funds, for example. So that's another aspect that we're looking at. So thanks, Lawrence, for that. And Suzanne, you've got your hand up as well.
Yeah, hi. I didn't mention earlier, so I've got kids floating about in the background, hence my camera off. But so I work for BBC Studios in the sustainability team, and I'm very specifically focused on supporting productions. It's quite a new role. but I'd be very keen. I think the idea of doing case studies is fantastic, and I'd really be keen to team up with Olio and Vegware and look at, I know this is a Scotland focused, and of course we do have productions in Scotland, but to find some productions in Scotland and across the UK to do case studies around this, and that we can get up and running, and that we can get on film, we can show data, we can record, we can share. So definitely keen to link up with Olio and Vegware after this and share, the learnings from the productions that we can influence.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, we would love to do that on our end, and yeah, we'll happily do that all over the UK. Yeah, we've done case studies for places. I know we're in the process of doing one for the Royal Opera House in London, for example.
I think what would be really helpful as well is a sort of one-page fact sheet of both what you can offer bespoke to productions and how they can go about accessing it, and the data that you can offer.
Definitely.
But we can
that's something we can certainly do, and then kind of you can all relate to the people that need to know in your industry. Yeah, obviously we were really interested to come along today because we ourselves are trying to figure out how this unique industry works, and who are the stakeholders and who are the decision makers. Is it the caterers on site? Is it the facilities? Is it the main production house? So I know you guys must know of how hard it is to get your head around sometimes of who's in charge. But yeah, so yeah, we would love to work with you or anyone else on cracking the film industry.
Great to have some next steps as well to go away from the meeting from. Julie, I see that you've written in the chat that you're a coordinator. Just to double check, are you already a sustainability coordinator by any chance, or a production coordinator just now? I'd be interested to know. I keep saying that so it's Lucy Clumpus who we've got in Scotland already, and I keep saying that she's the first.
Sorry, I'm just a normal coordinator, and I would welcome any industry-based training for working with this, because in my experience, it's usually a line producer or a production manager that would on location that would set up a system like this. So any training from that level downwards would be very welcome.
Great. Cool. Maria, you've got your hand up as well. Do you want?
I just wanted to reach out to Ollie and sorry, I'm really bad with screen sharing everyone, is that I would love to have a meeting with you with my CEO, because we are part of the Global Compact for the United Nations, and we do modernisation security. So we are on the film industry, but we do so much more. So I would love to see how we can move forward and how we can help because food insecurity is one of the things that I'm actually tackling. It's really, really important. So I would love to have a meeting further to see how we can help and see how we can grow. I would love that.
Great. I think we've got we can forward the details of each of Olio, Zero Waste Scotland and Vegware onto everybody as well. So yeah, so lots of takeaway points. Thank you so much. We're just wrapping up now. It's worth mentioning there are obviously other food waste providers as well in Scotland, across the UK. But in my own experience, and since I've come into the role in December for Scotland, obviously we've got Zero Waste Scotland at the forefront of tackling food waste for the whole of the country, and Olio and Vegware have both been incredibly proactive with trying to help us to change our industry. So thank you to each of you for your time today and for presenting and helping to familiarise our industry with some new ways of working. And yeah, thank you so much everybody for coming along today.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Yeah, and if anyone wants to reach out, yeah, please message environmental at vegware.co.uk or add me on LinkedIn, whatever.
Yeah, same. Thank you very much. Yeah, my email is jerry.boyle@zerowastescotland.org.uk, and then with regards to sustainability coordinators, we could look at having a workshop where we give everybody some food waste awareness training, and we've done that in the past. 5,000 employees over 437 businesses, and 88% of them have changed their behaviours. So yeah, happy to offer that.
Yeah, and I'd echo those two sentiments. We're more than happy to have a meeting. My email address is rory.gallagher@olioex.com. Yeah, and I'd love to have a meeting with any one of you.
Amazing. Cool. Thank you so much. And we'll see you. Just as a general context for everybody from the industry on the call, we're hoping to do these themed events relatively regularly throughout the year. So we've been thinking about other aspects of sustainability like set waste and sustainable locations. So we'll hope that we'll have similar events to this to come. So yeah. Keep an eye on our emails. Thanks so much, everybody. Bye.
Cheers. Thank you.